BBC World asked me to be in an expose they were doing on obesity. Because apparently I've become the resident person to talk to fat people in video letter form. Whatever.
Let me see if I understood this right. Video letter form. What the fuck does that even mean? She's back. Yes, Nicole Arbour is back. We meet again. And it appears that Ms. Nicole Arbour has sunk to new lows in her quest for attention. And fame? Or is it infamy? In her world, it's pretty much the same. Very clickbaity title of her last video, if you ask me. Which is basically the BBC exposed. Yes, she's claimed to expose the BBC. Let's explore that. Because I, for one, am not sure that this interview even existed. I question whether this interview she had, supposedly with the BBC, actually is a figment of her imagination, one she fabricated. We will explore that. Hey kids, Straight Talking Fedora Chick coming at you tonight, and welcome to the channel. Before I go on, I want to take the time to welcome my new subscribers and thanks for the sub. In the words of Alice Cooper, welcome to my nightmare. My first or second video I uploaded to YouTube last year was actually a response to Ms. Nicole Arbour's Depression is All in Your Head video. And it was around this time last year. Oh, geez. Yeah, I know I'm becoming a reaction channel these days. Oh well. So, when I first saw Nicole Arbour's last video dramatically titled The BBC Exposed, The Truth About Obesity. Yes, because like Alan Roberts of Every Damn Day Fitness, she claims to have the truth about obesity. Hey, Alan, you got some competition. I thought, oh no. Not another fat-shaming video I'm going to have to respond to. And I will. Honestly, in some parts of that video, she makes Alan Roberts of Every Damn Day Fitness look like a genius. And believe me, that is quite a feat. I had planned to do a response video refuting her point by point, and I'm still planning to do that. That will be a separate video, which I hope to have uploaded by tomorrow night. Yeah. Yeah. So after watching Nicole's video a few times and knowing what tricks she pulls to get attention, I have to wonder if that so-called interview was not with the BBC at all, or at least not a recent one. I have to wonder if she was recycling a 4-year-old interview after she got attention for the rather incendiary video back then. Dear fat people. After all, that was the video that got her notoriety. Apparently none of her other videos got the views that Dear Fat People got, at least not on YouTube. She had been under the radar for some time. Knowing Nicole Arbour, she probably felt the need to get attention again. Gamer from Mars uploaded a video talking about that very thing sometime last spring. I will link to his video below if anyone's interested. But he had some interesting things to say. Also, I took a brief look at her social blade stats. She had been losing stubs steadily for a while and started picking up more since her last upload. Yes, kids, folks seem to love a good fat-shaming video, it appears. Much like those who gawk at train wrecks. Right now, I am questioning if this interview actually happened, or was it recycled, or was it with somebody else having nothing to do with the BBC, or if this interview is even fabricated. And if you were to ask my opinion now, with what I know to date, I'm shooting for the latter. As indicated in the disclaimer in the opening of the video, I am merely speculating and asking pertinent questions. That video just didn't look right, and the title appears to be clickbait in its worst form. What little actual content there is, this video appears to be about dear fat people. It seems to be referred to often. Except, assuming the BBC really did do an interview in 2018 with her, why would they interview her again about that? They would surely have the 2015 interview in their archives that they could use. Even if they were in the works of producing a show on obesity or weight management and wanted that information, wouldn't they simply go to their archives? It's obvious she still hasn't changed her ignorant stance on the subject. Before I go on, I have to say my ex-partner was a broadcasting veteran here in Montreal, working as a tech producer for various radio stations. He's also worked in Ottawa pretty much doing the same thing, so he's seen the evolving technology, seen how the laws and rules of broadcasting have evolved over the years. So he was one of the good resources I checked in with today. Given the red flags I saw, I had a conversation with him about the basics and protocols earlier today. Now, my ex and I are Canadian, thus admittedly, we don't have much knowledge of British broadcasting news. However, my ex did see the video and he had the same concerns I did. Things just don't simply add up. My questions once again are, was this interview really done with the BBC as Nikki claims? Or was it fabricated, or was it for somebody else? You know, Nikki has done some pretty elaborate shit over the years to keep the spotlight on her. Fabricating an interview and putting up this elaborate setup, I would say, would be very much of part of her modus operandi. Nicole Arbour has a large YouTube channel and would have access to resources for production, editing, and yes, even a studio somewhere. And I did do a search to see if this interview she had with the BBC was real. As you can see on the video, there isn't on the video that Nikki uploaded on the 7th of March, there is no timestamp on it. There is no timestamp on the video, so we have really no way of knowing when that interview took place. No indication of any recent interviews, just the one she did with them in 2015 following the eruption of Dear Fat People. This to say, if that interview was done with the BBC as she says, was it recycled from back then? If anyone has seen her video, which I will link to below in the description box, watch at your peril, kids. The beginning of it is obvious that Nikki and the interviewer are in the middle of a conversation. We do not have the intro of the interview. We can't really be sure of the context of the conversation here. We don't have the show title or show name. We do not even have the name of the interviewer. The voice of the interviewer is barely audible. In other words, this interviewer could well have been Nikki having a conversation with her Aunt Millie. So the barely audible voice would be Aunt Millie. Yeah, the one who sounds pretty much like a British version of Charlie Brown's teacher. Now, if one were going on YouTube, especially one with the notoriety Nicole Arbour has to so-called expose or slam the interview she has, one would think it would be extremely pertinent information to provide the show name and the name of the interviewer. Next, it's obvious that Nikki's video is heavily edited. She reputedly accuses the BBC or any media outlet for that matter to cut, splice, or put together something that would put the interviewer in a more favorable light. However, isn't it obvious by her extensive editing, she is doing exactly what she is accusing the BBC of doing? Far be it for me to heap praise on corporate media. Anybody who used to follow me at Sister Sage's Musings years ago knows I rarely had anything kind to say about the media. But I will, and I do, give credit where it is due. So, from the information I've gathered thus far from my ex-partner and others, I have also been getting in contact with others to find out more. If I do, I will be sure to post an update. I looked at the comments section of her video and can see that the fan club is not asking those serious questions. But hey, yours truly is, because you know, kids, I always do my homework. I dropped a comment on her video last night and took a screenshot of it in case she erased it, as she has been known to do in the past. To date, she has not responded to the comment, but it is still up. So, after the next clip, I will delve into other items in the category of it don't add up that I came across.
Letter form. Whatever. I said yes, but I've gotten smarter over the years because I know that the media likes to take sound bites and put them together to create, I don't know, stories that aren't even there. So, I secretly brought my own camera crew and filmed all this. Here we go.
Brought the cameraman in secret, huh? Guess it ain't a secret no more. My ex did inform me that the networks he used to work for, when either pre-recording an interview for a future show or a live interview, the interview subjects were not allowed to record their own shows and film it afterward unless they have explicit permission from the ivory towers of said network. Again, this is Canada, not the UK, where the BBC would have to answer to the British broadcasting regulators. However, she gave away her hand here. I think when she mentions that she secretly brought in her camera crew, one has to assume that she did not have permission to record her own interview, be it from the BBC or another network, or in many cases, even a podcaster. Now, it's obvious that the interview was not held at a BBC studio. It was likely in Canada or somewhere far from the UK's BBC studios. Even if the interviewee was doing the interview from home or their office or some generic studio they rented, there would be more often than not be logos of some kind or network identifiers around. As one can see in the video, there is nothing like that. I might also add that, again, from what I found out, most of these shows, the interviews done, they are property of the network. So, yeah, just to add another reason why Nikki would not be allowed to film her interview. Yeah, she provided subtitles for what the interview was supposedly saying, but she can be easily quite fast and loose with the truth. I mean, that's not the first time that's happened, right? I showed the video to a few friends who are hard of hearing. Not completely deaf, but they do require a hearing aid to get through life. They either did not hear a thing from the interviewer except for a muffled voice, or they get bits and pieces they really had to strain to make out. Again, this to question the veracity of Nikki's subtitles for the interviewer's voice. The interviewer also claimed to not have stats in front of her regarding the percentage of the British population that is overweight. That would be a huge oops on the part of the network, show producers, and perhaps the interviewer herself. A huge reputable network like the BBC would not be caught with their pants down like that. At my ex's radio station, when prepping an interview, according to him, the producers would have the pertinent data, stats, or info for the interviewer or show host. It is possible that such an oversight can occur with a major network, but it is not likely. However, there could be another explanation. At that 2-minute 10 mark of the video, it is obvious that the part of the interviewer's voice was cut or covered with her usual production bells and whistles of pop-up pictures and loud, annoying sounds to easily distract the viewer. So, I think there is some context missing once again. What exactly is the stat? And for what? How many do overeat or how many do not? Much of her video, as you see, is peppered with these obnoxious sounds and those graphics. And it is highly distracting. So the viewer could be left wondering what exactly ended up on Nikki's cutting room floor. Again, Nikki, if you're going to publicly claim that a network like the BBC or the interviewer did not treat you fairly or was unprepared, as you claim, you're holding them to account, then it would be incumbent upon you to show that whole interview, that whole video, without the edits, except for perhaps finding a way to enhance the sound of the interviewer's voice so all can hear it properly. Next, Nikki, if you're going to do such an expose, where's the transcript of this interview? Or some record of the interview or something to indicate, easy for me to say, indicate that this interview was indeed with the BBC. Again, I am in Canada and not familiar with British broadcasting law, but I will assume that it does not differ from that of Canada. Even if the powers that be decide later not to use the interview, and that is within their discretion for whatever reason, to cut out the interview or edit or decide to not air the show at all, some record would have to exist somewhere. Also, as if Nikki says, if she's wary enough of the media outlet interviewing her, she or one of her handlers at least would request to have the transcript or some record of the interview right after taping and before the supposed show aired. Also, if the network decided not to air her interview or even the show, they would have to have had to notify her in writing to this effect. At the end of Nikki's video, she gives the impression that the BBC left her twisting in the wind. Supposedly the show was supposed to air in December of 2018, as she says. As mentioned, that was not to be. She would have been notified in writing to that effect.
Do you accept that healthy food is often more expensive?
That's not necessarily true because one study found that it's only $1.50 more each day to eat super healthy. But another study refuted that, so we don't really know.
In the last clip, notice how she edited out her answer directly to the interviewer. If she had one for the interviewer's question regarding the higher price of healthier foods, that is, she simply comes on post-interview with a nonchalant, maybe it is and maybe it ain't kind of thing. So, I guess Nikki was caught with her pants down. There are many other such examples in that video. Well, kids, that's just about going to do it for right now. As mentioned, I hope to have the other part of the response tomorrow night, point by point. As mentioned earlier, if or when I hear more about this issue, I will update you all. Take care of yourselves and each other. Straight Talk and Fedora Chick, over and out.